Did you know that people are far more likely to spend money that's visible and easily accessible? And that many struggle to save not because they earn too little, but because their savings sit right in front of them, quietly tempting them every single day. Today, I'm going to teach you how to protect your future money without relying on willpower and save you from becoming another person dipping into what they could be saving. Welcome to the Big Daddy's Big Tips podcast. Now, before we do anything else, I'd like you to arrive here properly with me by taking a pause. Because most of us move through our days juggling responsibilities, decisions, and quiet pressures that we rarely even acknowledge. We're constantly switching between roles, between tasks, and expectations, often without giving ourselves a moment to reset or reflect. This podcast exists to create that pause, just for a few minutes every single day. Not because life isn't busy, but because life feels far more manageable when decisions are made calmly rather than reactively. This is a daily podcast for people who care about their future selves, people who want life to feel more stable, more intentional, and less like a constant battle between good intentions and reality. This is not about hacks or quick fixes. It's not about restriction or deprivation. It's certainly not about blaming yourself for any decisions that you've made in the past. It's just about understanding how change actually works. Most people believe their future will improve because of one big decision, a dramatic shift, a moment where everything suddenly clicks. And while these moments can happen, they're extremely rare. What truly shapes life are the small, quiet decisions repeated on the ordinary days, and it's on those days that momentum is built. Every single day, you make hundreds of tiny decisions. What you buy, what you postpone, what you tell yourself you'll do in the future, what you make easy, what you make hard. None of these feel important in isolation, but together they create what I call ripple effects. Some ripples may make your life feel more secure, more spacious, whilst others quietly add stress and friction and instability. The challenge is that financial ripples are subtle. You don't feel them straight away, but over time they compound, and one day you'll either feel calm and in control or constantly on edge about your money without being able to point to one single cause. Where you are financially today is not random. It's the result of the systems you've been living with so far. That's not a judgment, it's an opportunity. Because systems can be changed without changing who you are. And this is where daily wins come in. A daily win with money doesn't need to feel impressive, it just needs to quietly make the right behavior easier. And this works best when your body and mind are not under constant pressure. I call this priming your vessel. When your vessel is calm and supported and not constantly tempted, good financial decisions feel that bit easier. You don't have to resist. You don't have to negotiate with yourself. This podcast exists to help you create that ease across your health, wealth, and happiness, not separately, but as part of one connected system. And every tip you hear from me is deliberately small because the small things are the repeatable things and the repeatable things are the powerful things. So as we move into today's tip, remember this. You're not here to become more disciplined. You're here to design your life so that discipline isn't needed as often. So let's talk about today's tip. Today's tip is one of the simplest and most effective money habits you can ever build. Hide your savings from yourself. That means moving your savings into a separate account, ideally one that you don't check regularly and can't even access instantly. And the reason this works so well has nothing to do with self-control. It has everything to do with psychology. When money is visible, your brain treats it as available, even if you've labeled it savings in your head. If it sits in the same account you use day to day, it feels spendable. You might not consciously plan to use it, but when something comes up, a treat, an offer, or an unexpected cost or expense, that money quietly becomes an option, and options get used. This is why so many people say, I do save, but then something always comes up. It's not bad luck. It's just bad design. Your brain is wired to choose the easiest path. So if your savings are one tap away, dipping into them becomes the path of least resistance. Hiding your savings removes that temptation. When money is out of sight, it's out of mind, not because you forget that it exists, but because it no longer participates in your everyday spending decisions. And this one change flips the default. Instead of consciously asking, can I afford this? Your brain assumes that money isn't for spending. And that assumption is very powerful. And that's what makes this tip such a strong daily win. You're not trying to resist yourself, you're removing the trigger entirely. So here's how to do it simply. Move your savings into a separate savings account, a bank that you don't use for your typical daily spending, an account without a card attached. And if we're being really good, we would use an account that even takes a day or two to access, because that small delay is enough to change our behavior. Because when accessing your savings requires a pause, you're far more likely to stop and think. And most impulse spending doesn't survive a pause. Over time, something interesting happens. Your savings start to grow quietly. You stop emotionally relying on them for short-term comfort. You feel safer without constantly checking balances, and that is the ripple effect. So let's see how this plays out across your life. For your wealth, hiding savings protects them from impulse spending. It allows money to accumulate naturally without constant interference. And over time, this builds real financial security without requiring constant effort. For your health, financial stress is a major source of chronic stress. Knowing your savings are growing untouched reduces anxiety and mental load. A calmer mind supports better sleep, digestion, and overall well-being. For your happiness, there is a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're prepared. When savings are protected, life feels less fragile. You're more relaxed, more patient, and less reactive when expenses arise. There's also an identity shift. When you hide your savings, you stop seeing them as extra money and start seeing them as future protection. That identity changes behavior automatically. You don't need to think about saving every day because the system does it for you. So let's keep it really simple. Open a savings account. Move your savings in there, stop looking at it constantly, and let your future self quietly benefit from the space that you have created. And as we come towards the end of today's episode, I just want us to slow the pace down once more because it's easy to hear something like this and think you have to overhaul your finances overnight, and that is not what creates lasting change. This is about integration, and real progress doesn't come from pressure or restriction. It comes from systems that quietly support better decisions on the ordinary days. So you don't need to earn more right now. You don't need to budget perfectly. You don't need to rely on willpower. You just need to make the right behavior easier than the wrong one. And that's why daily wins matter so very much. Every small system you put in place reduces friction, builds trust, and creates stability over time. And if you'd like any support with that process, I would always recommend downloading your free copy of my Big Daddy's Foundation Blueprint. It's not a challenge or a program, it's a simple structure that helps you notice your wins, catch your drifts early, and see how small actions are stacking up across your health, wealth, and happiness. You can find the link in my show notes below, on my website, or through my Instagram bio. So if today's episode has resonated, please consider sharing it with someone who's trying to save, but keeps dipping into their pot without understanding why. Because sometimes one small system change is all it takes to change a financial trajectory. So take this clarity with you, let it guide one simple action today, because those small actions are exactly where long-term security is built. I end each episode by asking you a question that you can answer in the comments below, and today's question is this. Knowing how powerful it is to remove the temptation, where could you move your savings to today so that they're protected from impulse spending and start quietly working for your future self? Have a think about it. Let me know what springs to mind in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Big love, Big Daddy.